Alright, how's it going, everybody? It's a beautiful day out today, and I'm finally getting around to installing and wiring my Dodge Ram tow mirrors. So these come with the pedal lights and the side markers, and I've had the truck for about 8 months now, put the mirrors on, and never got around to it, so today's the day. Alright, started off, my truck is a later 2004, so it's 2004.5. Start out just easier to get organized, get all your stuff set up, just makes time go by faster. All right, step one, you just got a Phillips screw right in there. Just get a Phillips screwdriver and take it on out. Okay, then right behind the handle here, you'll have another Phillips screwdriver. Pull the handle out, and then you can get the screwdriver in there and take it out. Also, try and keep everything organized so you have your screws in the right locations, so when you go to put it back together, it's a breeze. And if you get down, you got 2 Phillips heads down here. Just got a screwdriver, take those on out. Okay, and now the last step is right inside your door handle here. You have, kind of hard to see, sorry, but that's a Torx head, not an Allen. So this is a T40 size. So if you get out a 1/4 inch ratchet and extension, that's kind of the easiest way I found. You can't do it with a 1/2 inch, but it's just tight. So all you do is put it on in there just for a demonstration and pull it out, and the handle will come right off. Once you've loosened it, it'll come out just like that. Here's the head. Threads right into there. All right, now after taking those 2 guys out and everything, feel some movement in the door. All you do is give it a nice little pop up and pull out. That'll allow you to see down into your door. So here you got for your door, your window controls, and unlock and other stuff like that. So here you just unplug these 2 wiring harnesses. After unplugging those 2, door panel comes free, good to go. So now the panel's off. If you look here, this is the wiring connector for the puddle light and the marker signals. So mirrors come with these little harnesses, plug it right in, you got your wires. So I think just to make it easier for myself, you probably don't have to do this. I'm gonna take off my speaker so I can see inside. So my speaker's out. This gives me a lot better idea of where I'm gonna run my wires. I highly recommend it just to make the rewiring clean and not in the way of anything. So because it is tight down in here, I decided to remove this trim piece here just so I can see a little better. I'm gonna pop these pins off and see if I can get in there. So the route for my wires that I'm going to take, obviously you can do whatever you want, but I'm going to follow on the inside of this plastic lining and then have it pop through the door right through this opening. So that'll follow these wires nicely. I can tie it to that. And then also keep in mind, maybe just put a little rubber boot. You know, you don't want this metal to be rubbed through your wire over time. Follow her in there, and let's pull it through the other side. All right, so I've now ran my wires. So here's where the connection is. I ran it down, 2 zip ties to secure it in place. And here, I just did a nice little wrapping of a good amount of electrical tape to ensure that this thin steel won't rub a hole through vibrations and other stuff like that. Okay, so after trying to fish it through there for a little bit, realized I was wasting time, couldn't get it. So next thing to do is we're gonna get this guy off. So the way this works is it has 4 push pins in each corner. So by putting pressure inwards and pulling it out, that will lift. So you have to hit each 4 corners to get this guy to pull out a bit. So that's the next thing. I just got this bottom corner, the back are the hardest. I recommend doing those first, and then we'll get these 2 guys out and see what it looks like. So after taking this guy apart, you can see they're just 2 big connectors, and there's no possible way to run your wires through this source. So that's not a viable option. Next thing I'm looking at is here. There's a nice little rubber cap, which is accessible through here. So I think the only option is to run the wires through there. We'll just have to tape them up nice and get it situated. All right, so the next thing I did was insert the wires I did very carefully made a little slit in my rubber boot. So now I have my wires through there. I poked another wire through so I can tape it to this and pull it completely into my cab. After, I'm going to put a plastic protective lining on it. Okay, so I've now run the wires into my cab. The way I did that was making a very careful incision right there. So you have all kinds of wires back there, so be careful. Put a wire through and I taped it, ran it down and pulled it through. So here I just have some plastic sheathing just to protect it. This 3M sticky pad to keep it out of the way of the hinge so it doesn't get in the way. And now I can get to running my wires. Okay, and now you can reinstall your speaker. Make sure you hook it back up right. Make sure the wires are out of the way of the window gears and everything. I've had those rip off some wires before, so just something to be aware of. Okay, so now we're gonna put the door back on. So you just wanna make sure it slides right over your locking tab. Then push it in and down. So that'll, once it's seated properly, you'll know. You can see it line up the holes correctly. And then we'll get it all put back in. Okay. Reinstall the upper screw, hold in the upper portion of the door panel. And we're going to secure the middle of the door. Go. And don't forget your lower screws. Okay, now our handle's back on, door's back together. And by the way, this thing is awesome. We got this thing for like 25 bucks on Craigslist, and it's so easy to work on stuff. Hey, Bubba, what's up? My dog, Shady. Alright, let's get the other side. Alright, so just to cut the video down, you're basically going to go through the same exact process, getting the door off, the connectors off, and then we're going to do the same exact thing here. Do a little puncture, run it down, and just follow this line here. Okay, so now we're on the passenger side. It's a little bit different, so I still ran it through here. The goal is to run it right through here. So this had a little more electrical going on. I popped the cover off all the way here. So this piece is now removed. So next, you just got to get a screwdriver if you have a tool to pry these pins off. Get all these guys off, and then you can get enough just to see right there is where that wire comes through. So we're gonna follow that one and just come up right here and put some protective layering on it, and we'll just let it come out right here. So I've now run the wires through that rubber boot, now coming into the cab. This, I just put some tape just in case. This is pretty soft, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. And this will basically sit like this and be tied up, and you'll never ever see it. So do this, get a protective covering over that, and then let's run our wires. Okay, and now I'm reinstalling the door just to clean up and get some stuff out of the way. Whenever I'm doing stuff like this, I always like to try and clean up a little bit, because who knows the next time you'll be under here. So just give it a quick little vacuum and pick up all the crap. Okay, so now we have our wires in. They're just tucked up back here freely. Not super tight. And then here, I just put a zip tie there and down there. So you can't see it, put a little tension on it, and pull it up, and you'll never know. Okay, so just to show you guys the lights, I hooked them up just to a 12-volt battery. Always be aware, you know, where your hot leads are. Don't let them touch. So here we can see that the amber marker light is on. So it looks like our light blue is our marker wire. Black is obviously our ground, and so that means that purple, I'm colorblind, it looks purple to me, is the whatever these lights are called, these pedal lights. So let's test those. Here's just to show you guys the difference. So this is a lighter blue, I believe this is purple. So with this hooked up to my hot lead, we're now getting our pedal light activated. So now we know what's what. Let's start tapping into stuff. Alright, so the next step is I'm going to connect my ground wires together. There's a nice little ground right there, so I figure I'll connect up right there since these wires aren't very long. I always like to solder my connections just because it's much more solid than an electrical connector, and I know I'm not going to have any issues, so I'd rather put in extra time now than have to track it down later. Okay, so now we're going to solder this. I always like to heat up the metal, let the wires get nice and hot so that when you put the solder on, it absorbs nicely. Once we kind of start to see some heat going, always have a towel under just for instances like that. So now you can see that's a solid connection, you know, and that's not going to come off. Those little electrical connectors or the little T-tapping ones, those have always given me grief, and it's just a pain in the ass, so I've ended up just soldering everything now. Okay, so now every time you solder, you want to cover it up with the heat shrink so you have no chance of shortages or anything like that. So unfortunately I only have these little short ones, so I'm going to do 2 and then just do a little wrap of tape right around that. So now there's no chance of this ever causing a short or anything like that. Alright, so now our ground wire is done. You can see I can give this nice yanks. Not going to break, it's solid, soldered. Okay, so now we're going to get this ground hooked up and then we'll move on. Okay, now I have heat shrinks on all connections with some electrical tape. And I can tie these up. I'm gonna run the running light up front. I have a connection already on my headlights, so I'll tap into that, and then I'll show you guys what wire for turn signals. Then for the ground, we got a ground right here. We'll put that and just put a little eyelet on it and put it on. Okay, so the next thing I'm doing is removing my headlight. So with these headlights, I have this LED strip light going around the outside. So that I wired into my stock running lights. They're double filament bulbs, so the other one is your turn signal. So I can show you guys both. So I'll pop this off. 1, 2, and 3 in there if you can see it. And these are T30 Torx. Alright, so I have these lights already hooked up as I said, so that's what that red and black wire. I actually added an extension piece. I got it in, I ran it right under here. I can't see it, but it runs right through and then up through here. So first, the black, obviously this is your ground here. If you are looking to do something as a running light, it will be the white and yellow. That's your running light. Since this is a dual filament bulb, that means your white and green right there in the middle, that's your turn signal. So say you want to wire this to your turn signal, you would tap into this middle one. I'm not, since I want running lights, so I'm going into this white and yellow, but just so you know. Alright, so this was originally the blue wire, remember that? So that's for the running lights. So I now have my running lights, my aftermarket LED running lights hooked up to the stock harness. So that should take care of our running light. Now I'm gonna go hook up the ground before I get any farther. Now this ground right here, this is an 8mm, so I'm gonna tap into this. So I'm just gonna go get an eyelet and put it on. Now as you can see, we've got our ground connected. So we can close this up. Make sure no metal is sticking on your wires. I put extra electrical tape just to make a little cushion. We'll give in it. So now let's put this back together. All right, so now we're on the last wiring step of the process. This is the purple-ish wire. I believe it's purple, but again, I'm colorblind, so double check. So this guy, what we're gonna do is take off our pillar trim here. And so to do that, I just got this little pick here, kind of got it in under there in the crack, and then just kind of pried it off. And in there, you can see that there is a socket. It looks like an 8 or 10. I'll let you know what it is. So pop those two guys off and we'll go from there. All right, so this guy is a 10mm socket. So if you get a 1/4" ratchet, get a nice extension on there, and you can get it on and start loosening them and taking them out. Okay, so once you get these two guys out, you'll get a little movement. Then I did it was pop down a bit, kind of put your hand here and try and push it upwards and give it a little pull out. So now we gotta trim pillar piece off, and it allows us to see our wiring that is going over to our control unit over here. So now let's take a look at the wires. Okay, so the next thing I did was pop these little plastic tabs out. So now it gives us a little more freedom. We can move with the wires a little bit more, get a better look at them. The next thing I did was disconnect this harness. I very carefully peeled back the tape without damaging any wires. So now we can do some testing, figure out which is our dome light for our unlock accessory. Okay, so for the next step, I'm going to show you how it works. Have the wiring hooked back up. So here's my keys. When I hit my unlock button, I get these lights to illuminate. So at night when I'm walking up to my truck, I'll unlock it and that will initiate the puddle lights. So now that I know that everything works, I'm going to start testing the wires and figure out which one is the hot wire for this night illumination. Okay, so here's a little demo. So here I have two leads. I just jumped it. So here I got my puddle lights grounded here. So then I tapped into the blue, baby blue and yellow one. So now if you come on the outside, my door is open. So you can see that these lights are on. So that'll be normal. Carefully close the door. Okay, so now I've done some testing and actually ran some jumper wires just to be 100% sure that it works. So right here, this wire here, it's yellow and baby blue. So there is another yellow and blue, so make sure not to get it confused. This one is right next to your ground wire. You can see it right there. So this is what I'm going to be tapping into. I already have a ground set up, so this is all I need to get into. So I'm going to cut it, splice it, solder it. Again, I've had so many issues with those plastic connectors, and down the road they just start giving you grief. So I'd avoid it and just solder it, and then you know you're 100% safe. So let's do that. Okay, so I ran my wire up, got them all tied up nicely, so I'm not going to be ripping them out with the e-brake, brake, or gas or anything like that. So now it's coming up. I'm going to give it a little extra room just so I can tie it up. It's out of the way just in case I need to do anything later on. So here we go. Got my connection there. I'm about to solder it and heat shrink it, and then let's put it back together. All right, as you can see, they're soldered, solid, not going to come off. So then we'll heat shrink it and tuck everything away and see if they work. Okay, so now we got this guy heat shrinked and covered up all nicely. Now nothing's gonna, cause a short for some reason. It's covered up nice, so let's plug it in. All right, everybody, just to show you how it works. So here I got my puddle lights hooked in, tapped in, hooked it back up, so you can see my dome lights are on with my door being open. Come around front here, you see the puddle lights are on. Both sides, thankfully. Oh, wouldn't that suck? So now just to show you how it works, so I close my door and I will lock it with my keys. So now that I locked it, those lights slowly just turned off. So we check under here, we got no lights. So when I go to unlock my truck, we have a light. So this will be really nice at night. Again, I've had the mirrors for about a year now, and it took me this long to get it going. So I finally got them hooked up. I'm stoked. It took me seeing another Dodge at night with the puddle lights on to really get me to do it, but I definitely recommend it. I'll post some videos and pictures at nighttime when you can actually see how bright they are. But overall, hope this helps. Obviously there's more than one way to skin a cat, so this is just the way I decided to do it. Hope you guys enjoyed.